Hi, my name is Ken Candelas. I'm an audio professor in New York City, and I am also the co-founder of Metal Mastermind. I'm also the mad composer of Homeric, a philosophical metal project that explores the moralities of humanity through the concept of Dante's Inferno. But today, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about something that's very important for you metalheads who go to concerts. You got to make sure you protect your hearing. And I know I sound like the old grandpa who says this, but it's honestly super, super important, especially if you're going to be a kind of person who wants to retain a longevity in production. I do audio engineering. I teach students audio engineering, and I create my own music. Like, I'm really passionate about music and audio, and so hearing health is like so important to me. I want to make sure that you guys understand how to manage your hearing beyond just like earplugs, and maybe understanding a couple of different kinds of symptoms and things like that you might be hearing and what those might be, what to do about them, etc. So the first things first. When you have hearing problems, you go to an ear, nose, throat doctor, an ENT, a medical doctor who is able to treat that with antibiotics and all that kind of stuff. If you have pain, that's where you go to. You only go to an audiologist when you want to address your hearing results, right? So if you want to see how much you're hearing and you want to know what your frequency range looks like, that's when you go to an audiologist. They are specialists that are there to give you information. You can also go to an audiologist to create custom in-ear molds. You want to make sure that when you go and get your molds that you're doing it in a place with someone who's certified or has a lot of experience doing this kind of stuff, and then you can get yours made, which is awesome. I love having custom ear molds. So an audiologist is really the kind of person who can help you do things like that. Now, when you get an audiogram from an audiologist, which is a chart of your hearing, it'll show you what are the dips in your hearing that you may need to be more aware of, especially if you're doing production, these kinds of things. Yeah, they're going to be kind of important to know. Maybe you keep boosting that 4 kilohertz when you shouldn't, and that's what you got to deal with, right? Because it might sound good to you, but it sounds irritating to everybody else. Before we move on forward, understand that we also have 3 parts to our ear, okay? We've got our auricle, our pinna, then there's, the ear canal, then we have our tympanic membrane, which is the eardrum inside. That's actually connected to these things called ossicles. They're these like tiny little bones that bridge the gap between your eardrum and something called the cochlea, okay? Now, those 3 bones are like the smallest. They're actually the tiniest bones in your body, so treat them with respect, okay? Your ears are very, very sensitive. That's why if you get punched in the ear, you could totally, ruin your hearing, because those bones, they can break, right? And they take mechanical vibrations from the eardrum and put them into the cochlea, which then in turn creates this electroconductive sort of fluid, electrochemical fluid that allows brain receptors to understand what the hell is hearing. Okay, so there's a process, and it's a very complex, natural process. It's amazing what your ear can do. And so when you have sort of pains that rupture your eardrum, or it might be something like you did get punched, we call those kinds of problems conductive hearing loss. The good thing about conductive hearing loss is that your body can heal, and it can totally, get back to normal with enough time and, restoration. Swimmer's ear, by the way, also when you go into a pool and you get an ear infection, that's conductive hearing loss if you ever get that. It's, again, totally reversible. You just have to, rest and use antibiotics and all that kind of stuff. But then there's this other type of hearing loss, which is called sensorineural. So sensorineural is basically when you have nerve damage in your ears that totally screw up forever your entire hearing. These are much more common, honestly, than the conductive hearing losses, because the most common one is just loud sounds, right? So loud sounds don't rupture your eardrum necessarily unless you're at a certain sound pressure level, which is ridiculous if you get to a thing like that anyway. So if you go to a concert, which could easily be like 110, 115 decibels, I mean, you're talking about already introducing a massive amount of hearing damage the longer you stay. If you didn't know, at about 115 decibels, SPL, A-weighted, for those who are really nerdy about it, you're going to probably start losing your hearing in about 30 seconds, maybe even 15, okay? So you literally can't be in the room for more than like 15, 30 seconds before now you start introducing permanent hearing damage. That's pretty wild. So you definitely want to make sure that you bring a pair of earplugs, reduce it, by however much is comfortable for you. I usually typically do -20 if I can, especially for the custom ear mold ones. But, if you really need it for like super loud sounds like -30, -25, those are great. And they're exponentially, quieter, right? From -20 to -30 is 4 times almost as loud. When you are experiencing sensorineural, this could also be something called like presbycusis that could be age related, where you grow old, your ears, they get tired and they have been exhausted for all of their life. But you'll know that at least for anything that's with loud sounds, you can control that. You can totally control that. If you live in a metropolitan area like I do, where you have to go in subways and there's loud cars and sounds all over the place, you'll probably want to just bring a pair of headphones. Even if you don't play any music, you just use it just to cover your ears. That's a great way to do it. And I know metal is so much more fun when it's loud, but you could do it loud and still protect your hearing at the same time. So just try to be conscientious about that. If you want to listen in what would feel loud, but it's not actually loud, which kind of sounds backwards, but look into noise canceling headphones so that your loudness inside the headphone is not trying to compete with the loudness that's coming from outside that's bleeding through, right? So now you'll hear just clearly, and then you don't have to play as loud. Then you have this other one that's kind of interesting, which is a little more psychological. It's called pseudohypaxis. And basically, you kind of can fool yourself into thinking that you've got hearing loss. That might not always be the case, but, if you experience a very traumatic event, your brain can play tricks on you and think you're actually losing your mind. So, but we're all losing our minds in metal, so that's nothing new to us, right? So anyway, I hope that this was a very informative video. Again, if you ever need any sort of protection, look into places. You can get cheap, things that you can put into your, earplugs that can go into your ears. But if you really want to get high quality stuff, go for custom ear molds. Those are going to always be a lot better, more effective. And final tip, stay away from autotoxic chemicals, things like lead paint and all that kind of stuff. If you get any of that stuff in your ear, it's poisonous and that could be detrimental. So take care of your hearing. It's really important that even as metal musicians that we take care of that, because we want to also be able to hear for the rest of our lives. And as always, thank you for watching Metal Mastermind. Remember to give this a like and subscribe to get more of our content. And you will see that on Metal Mastermind, we have a bunch of courses available for those of you who want to learn more about creating your own sound.